Hello, good people. Let's get started. So I'm going to take a minute and invite, as I do each week, happy what is it? I almost said Super Soul Star Sunday. It's Womanhood Wisdom Wednesday. So I'm inviting because I think some of you cannot share outside of the group, which is no problem. However you join and invite people to join, look at your little setting there. I'm doing mine now, which allows me to invite a few of you. I hear wildlife. Yay. We're going to get started. Let's talk about pleasure today. You all know we're doing this 30-day challenge. So, this 30-day challenge where we're talking about Amplify 30. Yep. I'm still inviting. So many to invite. I'll figure out another way to do this. Maybe I'll do a little test. Okay, y'all ready to get started? How y'all doing today? Let me know you in the room. I see a few people have joined. Trying to find us a spot where everybody won't hear all of our secrets. We're coming into the group for a reason. And you know, maybe that'll be a great segue to just go on and start right there. As far as, you know, why Spirit right now has been directing me to do these inside the group, the supplementals. Some coaches say, hey, everybody, hey. Some coaches tend to do lives for the promotion value of it and that type of thing. And there's a lot of coaches that are offering real value. But the nature of my work, y'all saw that little blue? I didn't tell y'all about my hair story, my horrifying hair story on my birthday week. I haven't told y'all about that, right? Okay, I'm gonna take off my glasses so I can see. How about that? That's why my eyes be looking so crazy sometimes when I come on here. But anywho, let's get started. You know, have you all ever wondered why maybe I come inside this particular group to share first and to share live and to me privately, even though the group is open? I have witnessed when I first started teaching this with pleasure, my first community were primarily white women, to be honest with you, if you're watching. There wasn't a whole lot of teachers about sensuality and sexuality. Wasn't. Not black women that look like me. I do believe that I've been one of the trailblazers because the sisters that I learned from, some of them were primarily teaching on sexuality, open relationships, and that type of thing. And there was some value there, but there was something else Spirit had called me to that was missing. And now I notice that a lot of people get on and they talk openly about a lot of, you know, there's no shame here. I do believe that even in the rise of the feminine, that some things should be done in ceremony. Some things are only in the tribes, because when we talk about ancient and tribal wisdom, a lot of it is oral. It's passed on. And so now you have so many women just talking openly between their legs. Hi, I owe you a phone call. I think I saw your number. Was that you who called me? I got to call you back. And so I do this because the way Spirit leads me to do it, because to me, the journey of pleasure into this womb consciousness, into this what people call goddess lifestyle, which really is just a woman being in possession of herself and all of herself, not just her sexuality, although that is a big gateway to be able to give yourself permission to be yourself and to know what yourself is and what yourself is calling for. So let me go on and talk about the real reason women run from pleasure. And I hope that even if you are a juicy butterfly, that this will still resonate with you, because a lot of times we start the journey of exploring pleasure through our orgasm. If you're a wife, a lot of times you want to have more orgasms, you want to have better sex. Sometimes wives oftentimes are drawn to the communities of pleasure because they want to keep their husband, and they feel their marriage is in jeopardy because maybe the fire has turned down a little bit, or they are not compatible in certain ways. And so a lot of times women who are actually married benefit from giving themselves permission to have pleasure and to lighten up and to loosen up. I'm not even yet on the real reason yet why we run from pleasure. Kind of did this last week, but I am going somewhere with this. And then single women alike, a lot of times will be drawn to communities of pleasure, these goddess communities that are talking about pleasure, that are inviting pleasure and that type of thing, because they want to attract a lover. I'm just going to say lover in order to keep the gender neutral, because sometimes women have many types of lovers, you know, and so women sometimes come into these communities because they want to attract a man, and they understand that we have some of that attraction power. Yeah, would you agree? We got that attraction power. We have that. And then there are some women who come to this space because they've been so wounded by a heartbreak or by a situation. And I cannot tell you how many sisters live wounded because they actually see their girlfriends in relationships or on this whole thing called Facebook, and then they actually feel bad about, I'm still inviting if my eyes look funny, if I'm looking down. They still feel some kind of way really about not having somebody. Women are still defining themselves through that way. And so however you get here, it's okay, because I think that as I study and submit myself through more of my own processes and elders who are teaching, I believe that the goddess set it up that way, because the goddess energy, when I talk about the goddess, I am talking about the sacred counterpart to what we call divine, that has been left off the record and is the key part of the record. And it's the reason why the earth is experiencing so much disarray, because if the earth is a woman and is a mother, and the earth has been pillaged and disrespected by man, and we're just talking about the physical earth, but there's a mentality that goes with the kind of disconnection that humans now have from themselves. Because when you start to not honor all life, plant life, animal life, the life that we can see and the life that we cannot see, we are at a very low vibrational level. And a part of that is the way the woman has been treated in history. So here now we have the dawn of religion. Religion is not necessarily a bad word. But for some people who are getting free, religion has been a bad word for them, because there's also the psychological pathology that comes with believing that there's only one way to God, one way to express yourself, and then that becomes conditioned by men. There are a lot of words that now have been repurposed, and we use these words as though they are actual law, or though they are appropriate. And usually these words have origins in other places. Like, a lot of people were not using this whole term goddess. The feminine wasn't really talked about. You have so many men who have created multi-million-dollar businesses by teaching women because of women's desperation, because of women's daddy issues, and disappointment with the erosion of the family structure. So you have men now who are standing up in pulpits who are telling women how to be women, they say based on the word of God. I mean, I could give you so many examples of the hypocrisy that lives today, even in 2017, just in ministry alone. There are still certain women who cannot go into a pulpit and preach. Y'all know that? I think because we live in these urban environments, like a Washington, D.C., and like a New York, New Jersey, maybe even now Atlanta, Chicago, where people are a lot more progressive. And so what happens when you've been, either you live in one place, you go to one church, you hang out with the same group of people, you tend to see things of a certain way that is all on automatic. In other words, you don't get exposed to things that make you question, that make you research. And so we tend to think sometimes when we live in these urban markets that the whole world is reflective of that. Listen, one time when I was going to a funeral at the time, then my boyfriend at that time, and it was down in Chesapeake, Maryland. You hear me? When I went to the little church house, I thought that I had stepped back about 15, 20 years in King David number 3. That's one of the churches that we went to in Mississippi. King David, I remember King David number 3 when they had, King David number 3 had wood floors and wood benches. Y'all remember those churches where you went to and they had the wood bench with no cushion? Y'all remember those kind of churches? If you're church. If you're not church, don't worry about it. Because, hey, I can give you some moth stories, too. You see, I didn't just go and study and read a book on religion. I've experienced a few of them. But anyway, if you're watching, maybe you can remember those old churches. So then I remember when they converted King David over to the red cushion church with the wood bench. And I remember the deacons, and when they would get on the deacon board, on the front board, and then they would chant. Essentially, they started chanting, "I know the Lord, He heard my cry." Oh, those are chants. Those are incantations. You see, and we've taken things that are ancient and repurposed them for modern day religion, particularly the 3 major religions. What many of you don't know is there really is not a whole lot of difference between Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Man makes it so. But when you study those texts, the Torah, the Quran, and the Bible, they are talking about the same characters. And they are basically telling the story of the same characters in a different way. And also they apply different laws. When we look at the Bible, when people talk about family values, the Bible, if you look at some of the things with the Bible, it is not a standard for what we consider family values today. So pleasure has been made demonized by men, by patriarchy, and particularly if we go back ages ago, because you got to remember, a lot of things seem like they've been here forever, that the way it is the way it is and the way it has been. And that's not true. First of all, you got to remember there's a species that rules the earth right now that has only been here for about 600 years. So who were we 1,000 years ago? And why does that matter? Because why does it matter? Why does pleasure matter? Why is this the age of the woman, the age of Aquarius, the age of the feminine? Why do we see something else happening that's black girl magic and dark goddess and sexual freedom and all of these things? Listen, there are some people who will not even come in this group because it is called Good Girls Gone Goddess, if I called it Good Girls Gone to Empowerment, if I had called it Good Girls Gone Great, it would be thousands of people in here. But because in the West, many people still embrace Christianity as their major religion, there are still people in churches like that church I went to down in Chesapeake, Maryland, who they don't study, they just regurgitate. When I went to that church in Chesapeake, Maryland, there was no studying, there was no exegeting of the text. That man got up there and did what I saw them do at King David #2. And wasn't even scripturally sound. The text didn't even match up, but the people shouted and the people got happy, and hell and damnation was taught at the funeral to make people come to the altar call or give in the tithes. Now, if you're a minister, you know what I'm talking about. Y'all don't even understand the level of mind control that is acceptable right now, because when you get somebody that preaches real good, your offering is higher. Come on now. Talk to me. Y'all know this? And so anyway, I went and I was like, wow, in Maryland, I went to this church. This is in Maryland. I thought it was just in Mississippi, in Louisiana, in Alabama. Don't y'all ever call nobody down south country no mo. If you live, I said no mo. I meant what I said, no mo. Y'all know I can talk and speak the language. Don't ever call nobody country. Don't ever call nobody Bama. Because all you got to do is ride 30 minutes outside of Prince George's County. And baby, and actually you don't even have to go 30 minutes. Okay? So when we start talking about pleasure and the idea of pleasure, you have to know how special you are. That you heard the inner call to even be here to watch this video, whether you're watching it live or you're going to watch the replay. You got to understand how this is beyond you, that this is ancestral. When you begin to say, I know there's something here for me. I know I came to this journey. Some people may have come and went through the Rites of Passage program with me because maybe they fit the categories that I just mentioned. You know, their wound was speaking. They were sick and tired of being sick and tired in dating, in marriage, in unfulfilled sex life, in molestation, walking around with a scarlet letter. Come on now. There's some sisters who are walking around with a scarlet letter because you have been exposed to herpes, because you have been exposed to gonorrhea, because you have been exposed to this new thing, you know, that I believe is man-made and created. Yeah, I'm in the sun, y'all. I'm loving it. I'm loving sweating. I'm loving it. That's why this is action time. So listen, when we start talking about pleasure, it is so much deeper than your genitals. And those of you who've been with me, you know that. You know that it's beyond your genitals, even if your genitals brought you here. If your orgasm brought you here, if your womb brought you to, and when I say here, I'm talking to the body of wisdom. I'm talking about the methodologies to live in a new way, to explore something different that is only really healthy. Because if you're not orgasming, if you are wearing clothes that are too big for you, if you are ashamed of your body, come on now, y'all can drop a if in there for me, because you know the ifs. If you are still in relationships where you are talking about, I gave him some, but you're not talking about how you want to get a little something. You have a mentality that the woman is there to be some type of service to the sexual appetite of men. That can scare. Now I say drop what the if is, not just the word if. I'm saying drop what is a if, because you know your if. You know why you came here. Some of what was re-entering dating. Like I said, I've gone through the reasons for pleasure. Now, the first part of being able to understand how your five senses are a gift to you, but the five senses also are portals. They are portals for communication with the divine. And when you shame those portals and guilt those portals and try to judge those portals, then people look at pleasure as something that is a bad word. There are people, y'all hear what I'm saying? It is still grown ass women with PhDs. They're grown women who work beautiful, lovely jobs, raising girls who have menstrual cycles, and the mama has not even known how to embrace the magic of her menstrual cycle. Are y'all with me? Talk to me. Yes, keep on dropping those things. Somebody say if you hide your body from too much attention. Oh yeah, talk about it. If you've gained weight, because a lot of times we carry weight in the place. When you've been molested, you carry weight in order not to be seen, because it's a sense of protection. Come on now. Oh yeah, there's a whole lot that the body will minister along with our health issues. Okay, so now, y'all understand what I'm saying when I'm talking about pleasure. Now let's get to the real reason women tend to run from pleasure. Even those of you who have been through the rites of passage process, you sometimes run away from yourself and from your pleasure. And here's the reason why. Somebody say, tell me the reason. While I see if y'all can see this purple in my hair, this little purple. Come on now. I'm waiting on you. Somebody say, tell me the reason. I just want to give me 3 people to ask me, tell me the reason. That ain't to say, tell me the reason, Chandrika. All right now, Vivian, I got you. All right. Now that I have your attention. The real reason that you, them, they, us, I run from pleasure a lot of times is discipline. Pleasure requires discipline. Pleasure requires discipline. Pleasure requires discipline. Pleasure requires discipline. And when you have been heavily punished for being a woman, for being yourself, you have in your DNA still a slave mentality as it relates to your own feel good. Because the idea of anything that requires discipline, we sometimes will reject it. And how do I know? We're in a 30-day process. Y'all know last week we had a moment together, and it inspired us to get in action around this Sagittarius moon. So now you have some sisters who are in the 30-day process, right? And your shit is going to come up. Mine too. Because you've made a declaration that requires something of you. And one of them is commitment. It requires you to take an action every day. Let me go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with you. Number 1, because pleasure requires discipline, a lot of times that psychology that I just mentioned is still active and you have not cleared it out. You have not done the work to put it to sleep. So you can talk about how sexy, how much of a diva you are, and how much sex you have, and how good your sex is all you want. You are still only scratching the surface, because I have helped women to heal themselves, and they had orgasms. They had G-spot orgasms, but they weren't connected to them. Yeah, you can be a squirter, you can be barren, you can be the mother of 7 children and still disconnected from pleasure. All right. Number 2, we oftentimes are judgmental because of the situation that I just laid out, because of the experience that we have had and been conditioned by now in the last century or so when it comes to womanhood. There are so many judgments that we have been taught right in our own household about women, about being a woman, about whether you can trust women. We have judgments about what's appropriate in womanhood and what's supposed to be done in womanhood. And judgment will take you out of pleasure as quick as it comes. What I mean by that, you can have an orgasm and then because of your mindset, you be judging it. I know I shouldn't have done that. Let me hurry up and get up out of here. This gonna get me in trouble. Now I know I'm wrong for this. These are the things that we say. Where did they come from? When have you ever given yourself permission to have something that's good to you and not call it a guilty pleasure? Some of you have relationships with people where the chemistry between you is so strong that you know that if you get in proximity to this beloved, that it's going down. But because you've judged yourself, you also you have a lack consciousness when it comes to yourself. Not to mention a lack consciousness when it comes to love, sex, and money. But this is summertime, honey. Let me continue. I know that women go in heat. Our sexual appetite is stronger than any man's. Okay? So number 3. Pleasure, the reason women run from pleasure also is because it's a lifestyle. It is not for you to come in and get what you want and take from it. That's why some of you cannot get from under the spells, the curses, the generational patterns that you're under, because you came in to use pleasure for your fleshly self. Now, what I'm saying by that is this is not no religious stuff. Is you came in it, and then because you didn't want to do the discipline, you can't go further to break the things that's a generational pattern of the judgment, of the belief in hell and damnation, of the fear of God. You don't see yourself as a God. You don't see that. That's blasphemous to you. The world has taught us to see the divinity in us, as us, and through us as something that is blasphemous. You heard what I said. There's some of my own friends who are making me more aware that when people see the word goddess, they think it's witchcraft. They think it's something else. And they call it new age. This ain't no new age. This is ancient. This is alchemical. And that's my last point. Pleasure is alchemical. We are alchemical women. Pleasure is, and what I mean by that there are layers, and that probably should be a separate point. So let me, before I go to the alchemy, let me set up the alchemy with the next point. Is that there are layers to pleasure. There are layers to feminine, the sacred feminine. Layers. You do not have to go into you do not have to go into anybody's particular religious community just to learn of Oshun. But you believe me, when you start playing with certain things like that, you better know that there are layers to that. And just because you read a good book, there are layers. Meek Mills has the song that I love. Levels to this shit. Levels to it. Levels. Huh? Meek Mills, go listen to it. And a lot of times we get to one layer and we stop. We do not continue on the journey that is the lifestyle. There are layers and levels to it. And yes, I invite you all to it over and over again, because there's always something new to share. And if some of us who are in this work shared everything with you, you would definitely run. I'm not going to lie to you. When I first was still coming out of my religious mindset, I was yet free. I was much more spiritual, but I still remember when I stumbled onto someone's website that was much more specific. And they were talking about sex, outright sex, and like I told you, open relationships and things like that. And I was like, Oh, and I would peek at the site. I know there's people who peek at my teachings, who peek at my what I'm sharing, and then they go away. They gotta go digest it. I did it for a long time. Because that's how deep the spell is on us. And I call it a spell because I want you, even in your Christian mindset, your judgmental Muslim mindset, whatever your religious piety is, I was once that. And I tell you that I got my relationship, my personal relationship with God was not open, bust wide open until I enter into this zone of pleasure. Okay? Now, I get it. I get being free and shy about it. I get it. Shy, though, has been a place for us to hide. Shy has been a place for us to hide. I assure you that. Okay, and I'll share maybe more about that, or ask me a question in the comments, because I used to think that shy was a condition, but it literally can be born from a deep level of insecurity as well. There's a difference between being an introvert and just not really dealing with a whole lot of people. That's an energetic thing. But shyness sometimes has come from in the origins of a level of insecurity. It's a coping mechanism. The last point. We are alchemical. Pleasure is an alchemical process. When you invite pleasure into your life, even if it is just the sexual, but it's not sexual, because how many of us eat foods and then we feel guilty about what we eat? That's a chemical reaction that you are having to your mindset, not the food. Abraham Hicks says in his work that it is our mindset that creates the weight. Just like if mindset can create illnesses and attract illnesses and imbalances, what makes you think that mindset? There are some people who eat whatever they want. And, I have really been working with myself, because I tend to be very, very exacting and disciplined when it comes to working processes. And sometimes I can be a little bit too disciplined, which will make me, in my past, a little rigid. And so what I noticed is I had to catch myself, and I didn't catch myself on my own. I give thanks that I have the balance of a king that compliments me. And I said it like that intentionally. I have the balance of a king that compliments me. Because just because you have a husband, a boyfriend, or whatever, if it's not a compliment, you could be walking around. Some of your husbands are afraid of you. Some of your boyfriends are afraid of you. They can't tell your ass anything. They can't tell you anything. And that's probably another topic that we need to cover, is the situation that's going on with some of us alpha women who are so strong that we fucking up. And maybe I'll bleep this out later. We in our own households, we are absolutely fucking up our own chemistry. We fight the men. We're suspicious of the men because our mothers were suspicious of men, because of what our daddy did to our mom. We're still holding on to her marriage issues. You got resentment for what happened with your mother, and now you've taken it on. Oh, come on now. If you won't talk for yourself, I'll talk for myself. I've been there. I've done that. I remember the meditations that I used to say to myself when I saw my mother being mistreated. When I saw my mother being mistreated, I would say things like, I ain't never let no man make no fool out of me. So in essence, I was judging my mother too. And that's alchemical. When we have broken relationships with our mother, we have broken relationships with our womb. And when I say our womb, I'm talking about our ability to manifest. I am not talking about you got pregnant when you was a teenager. I'm not talking about the abortions that you've had. Those are other topics. Those are things that you can clean up. But because of the basis of what I'm saying, this is why so many women are walking around still in absolute shame and guilt because of the abortions that they had, or because of the secrets that they kept that made them end up in situations that if they had been more awake, if they had been more free, if they had been more truthful, they would not have chosen those men to mate with. They would not have chosen those men to build with. And so womanhood continuously becomes sacrifice, and then you have these layers. So the layers are ancestral, psychological. This is why when you begin to and give yourself permission and become unapologetic about who you are for real, whatever that is, and for every woman it's different. It shows up different. And that's another reason why we're surrendering judgment. Once again, there are prototypes to the feminine. The feminine has prototypes. You are one of the living prototypes. You're a combination. Do you know what they are? I'm looking forward to sharing and teaching you about them real soon. But this process, this is one of the reasons why I have created levels to even work with me. And some of that came at the advice of my mentors. Because you gotta be a woman that is either so willing to walk through those 5 things that I just mentioned, have already walked through them, and when you are coming home to yourself. I'm not here to convince any woman to take this pleasure journey. And for me, it's purpose, pleasure, and passion are the pillars of my work. But I used to try to convince and fit. Nope. This is for the called. And I know that the way that I'm rolling it out, I'm not just going to be one of the ones who's teaching you how to have to give a good blowjob. I could teach you how to give a good blowjob, but what about that hell, damnation, shame, guilt, sin thing that you got going on that's going to show up wherever you go? You feel me? So let me check and see what your comments are. I gave you the 5. If you missed them, listen to the recording. I love that some of you all got busy commenting. And y'all know when I read these comments, I'm probably gonna either, if it's not a question, we might have a Martha Mary moment like we do in Super Soul Sister Sunday. Okay. Cindy, just thank you so much for capturing it. Pleasure requires discipline. Risha said, wow, slave mentality in relation to feeling good. Oh, yes. This shows up in love, sex, and money pretty consistently. That's why when I say love, sex, and money, Risha, people think I'm talking about, especially business people. Well, how you going to specialize in those 3 areas? I didn't say I specialize in those 3 areas. I said that I know I help women turn blind spots into breakthroughs with those 3 areas because I've turned my own into them. Okay. I've walked across my own burning sands. See, you got to be willing to walk across your burning sands when we talk about pleasure is discipline. We want somebody else to initiate us. We want someone else to give us our letters because we've been taught to go to school. So we now think that when it comes to belonging, when it comes to our identity, that we have to belong to something. See, the Greek organizations are really about who you were in ancient Egypt. They are a fragment of the mystery school, the Masons, the Eastern Stars, baby. They are all teaching the wisdom in a watered down way. Come on now. I'm going to keep going. Risha said, I am extremely judgmental. Now, you've been working with me for a while, so I want to use you for a moment. When you declare I am, anything you put after I am becomes active and alive. So that means that the work that you are doing on yourself, you are canceling out by continuing to declare, I am extremely judgmental. I would invite you to say or to use the power of language to say, I was judgmental. I'm working through being judgmental. You see what I'm saying? Energetically, it's different. When you keep on declaring what then it cancels out the work that you're doing and you hold the spell that's been in place on you for so long in place. This is why pleasure requires discipline. Discipline of your tongue, discipline of your perception of how you see things, different of what you allow now your skin and your touch to experience, discipline of your taste buds. Yeah, I might like a lot of sugar, but if I know sugar is causing inflammation in my body and holding anger in my womb, then I'm going to stop eating so much sugar so that I can bring myself alkaline. Come on now. Thank you for that. Monique said, get me in trouble. All right, Monique. You wasn't always like that, now was you? Tell the sisters where you been and where you come from, baby. You wasn't always be like getting me in trouble. Come on now. All right, Risha said, preach. Judgment is so real. Guilt is what wakes me up in the morning. Really? Guilt, wait. Risha, come back on and explain that. Guilt wakes you up in the morning. And if you don't want to explain it, you can use the rites of passage process for us to go in and really break that thing up, okay? If guilt wakes you up in the morning, baby, let's specialize. Let's zero in on that in the process, okay? All right. What else? What else y'all talking about? Levels to this ish. Okay, Risha says, yes, I'm fighting through the teachings that masturbation is a sin and that touching yourself and sex is a sin. I'm breaking the religious implanting of all sexual pleasure equals bad. Congratulations. When you do that, you'll be able to move on to the next thing. A lot of times, some sisters don't take the time to even do what you're doing and to get specific. Discipline is also being specific about yourself. A lot of times when I ask women, what do you want? What do you desire? They have no idea how to answer that. And so today in our rites of passage process, I'm going to be talking about desire a little bit more and how it is such a healing language, chemistry, all of that. Tanaj, my girl Tanaj, I definitely have to catch this from the beginning. Please do, my love. Oh, that's a good one, Vivian. Wearing the pants. Men wear the pants. That's a good one. That's an old one that can be very alive and well. Yes, yes, yes. And as a result, we have many women who are now mimicking the suits of men in corporate America, and we cut off our lifeline. When we wear dresses, when we leave the womb open, even Iyama used to teach us that when you go get ready to do any kind of sacred work, you don't have on pants unless you cleaning, and you know what I mean, as physical. But you want your womb this summer, the maxi dresses, the summer dresses, you want your womb, your skin to connect with nature. Okay, thank you. That's a good one. Thank you, Tanya Curtin. Nice to meet you. You said don't be bleeping out nothing. Okay. You know, there's some people, Tanya, who are so judgmental that if you curse, they'll curse with you when you having a martini or something. But honey, if you curse on air, they think that's inappropriate. That's why we're good girls gone goddess. Tanaj says, I've been there, I've done that. Denise says, I've judged my mother so much. Dana says, I'm a prototype. All right, now Denise said, I'm called. Yes, you are called. You one of my babies. I see your future. Risha says, blow, great blow, but guilt and shame shows up right after I get it. Okay, got it. This is the call. Yes, Tommy, you are one of the called ones. Cindy says, we are our own sheroes. Thank you. Risha came back and corrected that thing. See, any moment can be the moment. Any moment can be the moment for you to catch it and correct it. Don't let that stuff go. She came back and she said, I was, all caps, judgmental. Thank you for the reframe. Girl, that's sisterhood. That's sisterhood right there. That's how pleasure-centered sisters do. We don't get offended when we get coached, corrected by an elder or by someone who's walking in their pleasure. The benefit of having sisters who are in their pleasure is that they can see when you're not. They don't join you. You know, the whine and moaning club. Ain't no good men out here. Child, you can't trust these. That creates more of that. If we working with the law, you want to have you some pleasure women. You should be inviting all your sisters to Juicy Spirit or to any of these trainings that open them up. Don't make decisions for them. They ain't ready. I remember they ain't ready for this. That's because some of you still are ashamed of studying your sensuality and your femininity. So you say other people ain't ready, but the truth is you are still afraid of what they may say, that they may reject you, that if they understand and or you know that your girlfriends are so negative that if they say, why are you doing that? You don't need that. You don't need nobody tell you that. Y'all know. Okay. Oh, good. You never believed what, Dawn? I missed it. Oh, God, even some of our pastors, especially some of our pastors. Well, that's what I just said in the beginning. You must have came on late. But listen, take those 5 and really look at if you run from pleasure or that you have ran away from pleasure. When I'm saying that, I'm saying running away from yourself. When you start to practice radical self-care, it requires discipline. It requires discipline. Like even now that we're on this 30-day challenge, I now have to think about how I set up my day. And if I let the day get away from me, I may not do my yoga or qigong, but I'm not allowing that to happen. So that means even when I'm tired, I have to meet my conversation of I'm tired and overcome it for this 30-day challenge. Self-care requires presence. It requires you to be available to it. So don't give up 5 minutes before your breakthrough. If this helps somebody, send me an inbox. If you've been one of those sisters that have been afraid, you thought that that witchcraft is something that, first of all, is negative because you're still operating on your pastor, your philosophy's version. That's a very uneducated place of womanhood to be in, right? So I love you all. There's nothing you can do about it. Thank you for joining me. And if you want to join the 30-day process, this is the last day. It's a very light touch process. You don't have to know a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not doing a whole lot of heavy teaching, but it is a process nonetheless. And what I learned from my beloved mentor is we've done many processes. So when I invite you to these processes, they are time tested and proven, and they yield results when you show up and allow yourself to be supported. So if you want to join the 30-day process, today is the last day, no later than tomorrow, to get into Amplify 30. In Amplify 30, we are going to take one area of focus, one area. Oftentimes, we try to choose too many things and never create a win for ourselves. You choose one thing. We are doing it in a very systematic way, and the breakthrough is going to come probably about 7 days into consistent practice. By 21 days, you would have broken the habit, the disappointment, the distrust that you have in your own word, and then by then now you have earned your trust back. If you move from 7 into that 21 days of activity. And by the last week, you are cruising. You've created some momentum. So I love you again, and there's nothing you can do about it. Thank you all. I look forward to seeing you. If you're interested, the link is in a post below. Ciao, everyone.